CashFlow Tribe is the fastest growing community of real estate investors in Canada focused on results. CashFlow Tribe was created by Matt McKeever and Ben Humble in 2019 when they realized there wasn't a successful real estate community offering accountability and results. Ben and Matt live an abundance mindset and believe that by serving people, we can grow as human beings and investors. We can have more impact and create more wealth by working together as a tribe. Ben and Matt have both experienced freedom through real estate investing. The foundation of CashFlow Tribe is as follows: transparency, community, results, and impact. For real estate investors, by real estate investors. CashFlow Tribe provides our members with proven strategies to accelerate or even start your real estate investing career. There's daily video training, 2 weekly accountability calls to track your progress, a video library that features a variety of on-demand training, unlimited access to an active community of investors, and invites to masterminds, dinners, networking events, parties, and much more. Are you ready to get that boost you've always needed? Text TRIBE to 226-773-1145 and instantly receive a 14-day trial to CashFlow Tribe Alpha. Shift your mindset, hone your strategies, and get results.
welcome back, everybody. It's your boy Ben Humble on the Data and the Drama Show. Hope you guys are having a blessed day. We've got some awesome stuff in store for you guys. Back here with my man on McKeever Mondays. If it's your first time here, or your second time, or your 43rd time, which I think is how many episodes we've done right now, do me a solid, share the stream, let everybody know what's going on. I'd really appreciate it. We're going to be dropping some value here today. So I'm going to bring my boy on before I get started, Mr. Matt McKeever on McKeever Mondays. Hey, Matt, where are you at, dude? Is he there?
Hey, Ben. Yeah, doing well. Yourself?
Well, welcome to the show, man. I'm giving you my very first trombone of the day. I don't know why, but that just is a cool sound. So welcome back, man. We got some cool stuff. Hey, folks, in the comments, let me give you some shout-outs real quick. We got Andrew and Allison and Jason and Matt McKeever, Ben, Mirza, Jade, Taylor, Grant. Dude, it looks like Grant Cardone's in the audience. No, it's Grant and Corrine Grandcore. Dude, that is an awesome name. You totally got me punked on that one. Glendale, Lily, and we got Mr. Hungarian in the house. Good to have you folks here. Hey, we're going to have some cool conversation today. We're talking about financial independence, how to retire early from the rat race, which right now is a topic maybe not a lot of people are thinking about. They're just trying to survive the rat race. But we'll jump into some things on retiring, which, Matt, I know you did at 31 years old. Retired the game, man. You're like a Jay-Z album, dude. Just like retire a young buck, 31. That was a pretty cool experience. Yeah, sure. Why not? It was, and you did that kind of independent, right? Like you didn't really have anybody else that was retired in your circle of friends, right?
Yeah, I think just around the time that I was really fully going in, like leaving my job behind and just kind of going full-time into real estate or being retired early, around that time, we really started to see a bunch of different communities start creeping up in Canada. But before then, like before 2015, I feel like it was really just a desert. There weren't any communities out there. You'd read a newspaper article once a year about a crazy, quirky person that found a way to drop out of the system or retire at a young age. But they were always told as like one-off anecdotal stories rather than as something achievable for the average person.
Yeah, and it was never really mainstream, right? Because I heard some of that stuff kind of growing up and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like many people when they first started. By the way, first book you guys should read if you're brand new to real estate investing, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, just a great, really story-driven book to help you understand that there is another world, another way of thinking out there. And Robert does such a great job for beginners because he hits the same point over and over. It's like Dr. Seuss with that book, right? It's like my rich dad was the entrepreneur. My poor dad was the head of education. And it's like the same storyline over and over. But it reiterates the story that is definitely possible. Other people are living that life, but we don't necessarily know how to do it because many of us, we just have never been subjected to that environment. We've never got around other people that were 30 and just like, what do you do? Nothing. I'm retired. I've already done all the work I'm going to do. I'm 30 years old. I like to travel or whatever. So that's pretty cool. A couple more shout outs in the house. We got Nancy. Hey, Nancy from Ontario. We're from Ontario, so it seems like everybody's from Ontario. Alex is in the house. Marla's in the house. Good to have you guys here. Give us some shout outs. What's going on, my peeps? Dustin's in the house. If you have some questions from Mr. Matt McKeever or myself, drop it in today on McKeever Mondays here on the Data Drama Show. Would like to retire early. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Hey, great book. We can read the book OPM, Cashflow Quadrants, another one. Let's jump into news and charts, then we'll jump into Matt into like more dialogue stuff about retiring early, some practical steps, some things people need to really consider. We'll talk about the FIRE movement and a whole bunch of stuff to help people kind of get started in this direction, kind of share some stories. So let's jump right into it. So NASDAQ, by the way, folks, it looks like the overall markets are not really correlating or corresponding a whole lot with everybody's expectations of the world because there's a very exaggerated viewpoint. There's a whole lot of nothing and something going on at the same time, it seems, just about every day. So NASDAQ jumps 1%. And for those of you that think it's not a big deal, it actually isn't that big of a deal. It's not really crazy news. It's just news on a 6-day winning streak. And it's doing okay. The market's actually rebounded a bit since the whole, thing happened, the pandemic happened. And, it's just kind of chugging along. Every day seems to be an up or next day it's a down, depending on what's going on. People are kind of expecting this massive thing, Matt, like the whole market's coming to an end. And recent data coming out says that a lot of home buyers are actually not listing. Listings are down 39% as, according to realtor.ca. So buyers are wanting to buy, but sellers are pulling back on the sale, which is an interesting thing, right? You would think like, sellers are, they're like, oh, let's get out of this thing before it hits the fan. What do you think that is, man? Why do you think sellers are holding back and buyers are ready to buy?
Yeah, it really is interesting. Off the bat, I can't think of any really good reason why that pattern might be developing other than the fear of missing out seems to be greater than the fear of losing. So before COVID-19, certainly a very common narrative here in Canada was, millennials buy now or you'll never be able to afford a house. And that fear of missing out, I think, was really strong. And for an extended period of time, a lot of millennials were indoctrinated with this fear that you may never get a chance to own a house in Canada. And if that's the case, then I could certainly see people viewing this as, they're kind of quickly looking around and they're establishing things don't seem that much different than they were before COVID. So let's jump in and try and take advantage of this.
What do you think of this idea? What do you think of this idea? I'm thinking so buyers are coming into the marketplace. They were maybe pulling off a little bit as the whole COVID thing happened. Now all of a sudden everybody's back out. Some people are masked, some people are not masked. There is a great divide between people who are taking this super seriously and other people are saying, let's get back to work, right? Let's just keep moving on with our lives, because the people that are, affected, or the people that are, may become susceptible to this, those people can take precautions, stay at home, and do all those kind of things. But the vast majority of people, it really is not affecting you. And I saw this stat out the other day. It was an interesting picture. It seems like every year we have either a pandemic or this massive thing for the last 15 years straight. If it's not SARS, it's E. coli. If it's not that, it's Al Qaeda. If it's not that, it's like literally every year for 15 years has been another thing. So it almost seems like some people almost have like pandemic fatigue, because they think back to the last pandemic and we're like faster and faster being willing to almost disregard the news, because we understand that so much of it is hype and propaganda. Yes, is there serious stuff going on? Sure, I'm not trying to minimize the folks that are truly suffering, but to live in fear, I don't agree with that logic. So what I think is some of the sellers are thinking, well, I may not be able to find another property, and that's why they're probably not selling. And then going into somebody's rental probably seems a lot less attractive now than it did, months ago, because now there's all this other stuff. But buyers, I don't think buyers are pulling back. They're like, hey, the markets keep going. So I feel like buyers are more optimistic and sellers might be more pessimistic, which is a little bit of a dissonance from where we were a couple months ago, because it seems like sellers were really optimistic. Hey, my property's worth $400,000 more than I paid for it, And buyers were kind of getting the short end of the stick. So it seems like the buyers are kind of rallying together to put more, whereas the sellers are kind of like, eh. So it's an interesting thing. Even though the sentiment may or may not be shifting, I don't know that it is for sure, the overall effect is about the same. Less houses are selling. The prices are still staying higher, right? I don't see a massive drop. However, what I've seen in my real estate business and our team is that our team has bought more houses in the last 6 weeks than probably in the last several months prior to COVID, because there's a lot of deals on the MLS that are falling apart. Meaning that, the buyers that had a deal together are no longer getting final approval because they're on 55% of their income. And some of the financing deals are just having a harder time getting put together right now. So anything with financing condition is a lot less confident than it was a few months ago. Anyways, that's what I'm seeing, Matt. What have you seen in the marketplace in relation to that, buyers and sellers?
Yeah, we're paying a lot of attention to what's going on here in London, Ontario and Southwestern Ontario. So every Monday and Tuesday, I get together with my wholesale team. So today we were focused on single family home sales here in London. And really, we haven't noticed a dramatic shift in pricing or volume for the last few weeks in regards to what's going on. And same with new listings. So again, there's every now and then where you might see one property that sells a little bit lower than you'd expect, but nothing that's a smoking gun whatsoever in regards to any dramatic real estate shifts in pricing or terms when we're looking at on-market deals. And in fact, actually, this was the first week in like at least 4 weeks that we had over 100 new listings on London's realtor.ca. So that was kind of interesting to see a slight uptick. Now, obviously, anecdotally speaking, that's different than what the US is seeing. But yeah, I think that a lot of the doom and gloom forecasts that were maybe thrown around 4 to 8 weeks ago aren't necessarily coming to transpire, or at least not as fast as people expected.
Yeah, folks, I like your comments here. Go ahead and throw some stuff up. I see some pretty good indication here. Could it be the phenomenon be part of a behavioral economics, or do you guys think that the recent fiscal policies have implications on buyers and sellers' recent actions? The answer is yes, and to what degree? So let's make this a more interactive show here today. Throw up some comments. We're going to be jumping into some of this stuff. I'm going to go ahead and make some broad statements of things that I've heard. I don't want you to take this as my direct opinion, but I'm going to open it up for dialogue and conversation point. And some people might get annoyed, some people might get excited. But I've heard a couple different things. Regardless of what you believe, whether the pandemic is 100% accurate or it's exaggerated or it's political in nature because there's an, obviously in the U.S., there's an election coming up in November. Regardless of what's causing it, whether it's China, not China, I don't know. In fact, I don't think anybody truly knows. And if you think you know, I don't know if it's 100% right. But here's what I do think. I do think that there's an obvious divide that's growing between people, right? Between the people that are essentially almost the haves and the have-nots. The haves are I have the ability to control my own destiny and I'm going back to work and making things happen. And the have-nots to me are the people that I don't have any opportunity. I'm stuck at home. I have no opportunity. I'm basically, so victim mentality versus the opportunistic mindset. I'm seeing the two, and it's becoming more and more of a disparity between the two. So you got people who are kind of attacking each other in different platforms. I've heard guys like Andy Frisella be like, we're all being a bunch of punks, get back to work. I'm hugging everybody. I'm shaking everybody's hand. Cool. All right. I get it. All right. He said, those of you guys that are impacted or are in this demographic of people that you may be more subject to, the infections or whatever, stay home, cover yourself, wash your hands, do all the stuff you're supposed to do. But, his thing is the rest of the world, get back to work. Like the new reality, a lot of people are like him. They don't want to accept this new reality of I'm going to bump shoulders the rest of my life and stay 6 feet apart from people the rest of my life. I'm not going to make it socially acceptable to never shake somebody's hand or give them a hug. And then you got other people who are like, you're completely irresponsible. We have to do everything the government tells us to do. That I do see. So tell me, guys, what you see as that. Matt, I'll let you chime in on this, man. I do see a disparity in that viewpoint on life where it seems like some people are gradually moving over here. Some people are gradually moving over here. And I don't see a lot of indifference. I just see more of this kind of thing happening. So it's interesting to me. What do you think on this, man?
Yeah, it's definitely a polarizing subject matter, right? And we're really starting, like, the further we get into this, the more extreme I think we're starting to see the difference between the two parties or the two views.
Yeah.
In regards to, whether it's the have or have nots or the people that have a strong internal locus of control where they believe that they're really in control of their lives and, they can adjust the trajectory versus the people that just have life happen to them. And
what do you think of the idea of like whatever you truly believe right now is getting, that surfaces a lot quicker where maybe it was a little bit easier to hide your feelings months and months ago about certain topics. Now you're more vocal and apparent. Like if you're afraid to shake people's hands if somebody tries, you're like, hey. Whereas maybe a little while ago, you're like, it's okay. I'm kind of an introvert. So maybe it's almost like having money just accelerates who you really are. I feel like these events are accelerating people's fears or beliefs more, where they're just more vocal about it, more direct about it, less politically correct, less sensitive to other people's viewpoints, less willing to be empathetic towards other people, and just like, no, this is how it is. I know because I know. And that's what it seems to me, that it just becomes a lot more direct. And then people, obviously, they take that and they, then they extrapolate whatever they want and they hear what they want. He said I'm this, or he said I'm that. And I just see like this polarizing nature is creating these divides among people and even among investors. Like, Matt, I've seen this where, hey, let's get back in and crush this market. How dare you? We got other people like, you can't do that. That's taking advantage of people and this and that. And it's like, well, yeah, you're both kind of wrong. Just throwing it out there. Just about everybody's wrong 100%. Anybody who's got one definitive approach, I think it's all relative to your situation, your finances, your person. Like if you're a person who hasn't been, hasn't come in encounter with this. I know people in my family have come in encounter. They tested positive. They've gone through it. Now they're okay, right? So my experience with it from our, people that I know is that, hey, they've gone through that. It's really not that big of an issue, but also the people that know are relatively healthy. Whereas I know other people, perhaps, who had people who weren't that healthy or were, had compromised immune systems and they went through it. Maybe they didn't do so well. So I think it depends on the experience that you have as a result of this thing. So I don't know. I feel like it's a personal journey everybody's taking, and then they're creating their own story narrative out of it.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's becoming really apparent is how easy it is for us to find ourselves in these echo chambers, right? Everyone's
Mhm.
been locked up at home for 50 days, only consuming news from their one source of news that they like to get it from. So, again, depending on which side of the spectrum or which side of the political spectrum you're on, you're able to really find a lot of stories and articles that reinforce your entrenched beliefs already.
Yeah.
I think we're really just starting to see a lot of people hit a boiling or tipping point where again their sources of media continue to get more and more polarizing because
Yep.
I think everyone's just caught up in this cycle. And even the little bit of interaction we had with coworkers and just normal people in normal life, I think that's sort of watered down some of our extreme sources of news and helped create a bit of a better balance for the average person. And
Hmm.
I think that we're really seeing few people be average anymore in their views towards what's going on. I think that we do, like you mentioned, have a lot of extreme views developing. And it I don't know. We see this in almost everything, right? What happens is as more and more content becomes available, it pushes you out towards the extremes because that's the only way you can differentiate or stand out from all the noise.
Yeah.
And so, in order to really have a signal, you have to be that sort of extreme sort of position or extreme facts or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And I think it's unfortunate because in a microcosm, bringing it back to real estate investing, we saw that with landlords and tenants, where the mainstream media wanted to make this out into a giant rent strike and landlords versus tenants, and there's going to be blood in the street and
Yeah.
people will go bankrupt or homeless.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it turns out most humans just want to get along. And most humans just don't want confrontation. Most
Sure.
humans just, they'd rather take the well-worn path,
Yeah.
which is just do things the way we've always done it
Yeah. And
versus like all these crazy sort of theories.
it seems like people are either like wanting to be influenced or they're trying to influence, especially right now more than ever. You get people who are very headstrong, like me. I refuse to be influenced, but I also come from a place of communism where, our people were influenced and oppressed long enough. So for me, I'm going to push completely the other way. Like, don't influence me. Don't brainwash me. Don't tell me what to believe. Don't give me a bunch of numbers that you can't validate. If you can't show me the data, where is it? Then it's just drama. That's me, right? Other people have never gone through this kind of like, in a way, controlling atmosphere where people are like, da 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 da, because a lot of us, we just haven't been exposed to that. We've never been exposed of like the draft and communism and like other countries where you don't have the liberties and freedoms that you have in Canada and the United States. Canada, to me, is the greatest freaking country on earth. The greatest country. Because if you can't get along and you can't succeed in Canada, which is among the top most successful and happiest communities in the world, hey, you're not going to make it anywhere else, in all fairness. So, like, I think we should sometimes focus on the blessings and what we do have, focus on the positive nature of what we can control, instead of focusing on the things that are outside of our control that we can speculate on every day. And let me tie this back into business, Matt. This is stock market versus real estate to me, right? Instead of jumping into this real estate market or stock market, and I'm going to be buying all these stocks I don't understand. I don't understand how the price of this option moves. I don't understand the price of this equity. I don't understand the underlying assets in this company. But I'm going to just jump in and speculate with it, because the more I speculate, maybe I'll gamble and maybe I'll strike it big. This idea of digging for gold in an area that you don't understand, you're standing on somebody else's mountain trying to dig, my friend, it just does not work. You might as well buy lottery tickets. I would rather work on things that I can control. I can control my real estate. I can buy it. I can buy it right. I can get the right price for it. I can rent it out. I can do mortgages, vendor takebacks. I can do all these different things with real estate as an investment vehicle that I cannot do with the stock market. So I think if we're going to ultimately become responsible, there's an inherent value to doing business in things that you truly understand or you can control. There's a very speculative nature to everything else. So the way you do one thing is kind of the way you do everything. Like, so if you're speculating about the news and what's going on, you're probably buying some stock, and you're probably buying some things that you think might go up, right? Whereas if you're not participating in that, you're probably actually more conservative investor and focusing on the things directly in your lane. So I tend to lean towards that. I want to be in my own lane. I don't want to be influenced. I would rather influence. Now, that creates some issues. Sometimes people don't like that. Some people don't like my viewpoints on life. But the truth is, you're probably being influenced by somebody anyways. You just don't want to be influenced by me. So I don't know. It's like a big power grab in a way. What are your thoughts on that, dude?
Yeah, I think that, these days we certainly need to be careful about our sources of information, fake news, and just finding any sort of study to support your preconceived notions or your existing position already on a topic is definitely a real concern. So I definitely lean towards your perspective. For me, it's about gathering. I really like to gather as much information as possible, relevant information. To me, information asymmetry is really the name of any investing game. So again, information without action to me is entertainment. Information with action is education. Like it's
Boom.
where we're really going to get wisdom.
I like that. I'm giving you a bomb for that one. Say that one more time so people can dissect it again.
Yeah, so information with no action to me is just entertainment, right? And again, like there's so many different sources of that, but information with action is education, right? That's where we're going to gain wisdom and experience from.
I love it.
So for me, the information that I want to really focus on right now as a real estate investor is what's going on in the London, Ontario real estate market. It's interesting to know what's going on in the US or Europe or China. But as far as it having a direct impact on our Canadian real estate market, it's harder for me to suss that out. There's so many macro influences these days that I could point to 100 different factors to prove to you that we're about to crash or that we're about to go into the biggest boom cycle ever. And I'm aware that there's so many data points that I'm not going to be a great aggregator of determining which side has slightly more points. So for me, let's focus on the more local data. What's literally gone on this week in my market? And that's going to, I think, empower me to be a better investor than necessarily knowing what's going on in Arizona's real estate market.
Yeah, but you have a strong locus of control, though, dude. I mean, you've worked on yourself, your mindset. You're an astute reader. You've gone through a market cycle. You've been a part of the real estate investment community now for a dozen years or so, whatever it is. Like, most people are not there mentally. So I think, folks, this is where we find out, folks, who's prepared and who's not prepared. A lot of people can talk and give opinions and stuff when the market is steady. 6 months ago, everybody was talking real estate. But the truth is, right now, we find out who's personally developed and who's not. The people who can't control their emotions, the people who are running scared all over the place, the people who refuse to take accountability over what they can control. Now we know that those people haven't invested any time in their personal mental development. Like, your emotional development just isn't there. And if it's not, we could talk about some of the things that you can do to start getting in that direction. But there's obviously going to be a massive advantage towards people who can control their emotions today. Because I believe your ability to become a successful real estate investor, that's what we're talking about here. Real estate investing is about emotional control. And if you can do that, then you can do real estate investing regardless of what goes on. So is the stock market. It's the same thing, folks. Like, if you want to be a day trader, it is one of the hardest emotional games you can play because you're playing on greed and fear and speculation all day, every day, and you're trying to make micro calculations and make decisions on things that you just don't know, right? We're just making assumptions and predictions. So I think it's more important than ever to develop your internal, call it whatever you want, chi, or your internal peace, your internal harmony, whatever it is, your faith in God, whatever you do. I think it's time to get in control of your own emotional state of mind. If you can't do that, my friends, I think regardless of the activity you try to perform in, you're going to struggle against somebody who's not. So if you want to be an astute buyer of real estate, it's going to be difficult to be an astute buyer if you can't be an astute manager of your own emotions. What's your premise on that, man? Because I know this goes a little bit beyond the real estate.
Yeah, I completely agree that way too often we get hijacked by our emotions, and emotions can be useful things. And I think that in certain situations, we absolutely need those emotions. I think for a lot of investors, a lot of people seeking financial independence, retiring early, for them, there needs to be an emotional connection to your goal, but you can't allow your emotions to ever hijack your thought process. So for me, the value in emotion is tying it to that goal to make sure that you'll put in the hard work necessary to achieve the goal. So knowing why you want to, build up a passive income from real estate investing to quit the rat race, knowing what that really means to you. So it's more than just, I want to make $5,000 a month in cash. That's not enough of an emotional connection. I think a lot of people will struggle to reach their goals and put in the hard work necessary. But if it's, I want to spend more time with my family because my dad didn't have enough time to spend with his kids, you know, and by me making $5,000 a month, it means I can quit my job and spend all my time with my kids. That's the right type of emotions. And that's really using your emotions to help impact you for the better.
Yeah.
We're getting caught up in just the drama of like 5G and vaccines and this, that, and the other. That's just so much noise.
I don't even know what 5G means. I don't even have a clue. I haven't researched it for a second. I don't even have an idea because it just sounded like some BS to me, and I wasn't even interested in figuring. Like, it just sounds like something with aliens. I don't know, man. I really don't know who's trying to control, who's not trying to control. So I just don't even touch it. Steven says emotional intelligence. I think it's that plus another point, which is emotional awareness. Do you even realize you're becoming emotional? Do you even realize that you're not controlling your emotions? Because most people aren't even aware. And I think that's where it starts with. And if you want to have enlightenment and you want to have perspective of the world, it starts with awareness of what's going on and awareness of the different things that may or may not be there. So let's kind of do a little experiment right here. Everybody watching this will be in a different place. Some people are completely brand new to investing. Some people are just trying to pay their bills. Other people are active investors looking for deal opportunities. So why don't we come up with some tactical things for folks at home right now that you can employ from two guys that retired, you know, essentially the financial rat race at 30 and 31 respectively. And we've been through a market cycle. So let's just go into some tactical things to give folks at home, you know, some examples of what we can do. And I'm going to be extremely data-driven on this, folks, because right now you feel the pain enough. I don't have to coerce you into giving you the right answer. But a lot of times when you don't feel it, you're just going to keep spitballing back at me on your opinion. And I'm sorry, your opinion is wrong most of the time. Because if you haven't done it, if you haven't achieved financial success, you telling me about, you know, the bond market and you telling me about the RSP thing that you did, most of it just doesn't matter because it's wrong. I'm sorry, but it's just wrong. So right now I'm going to be very opinionated because I'm just going to speak from what has worked for me. And Matt, you can choose to, just give us your direct answers, whether they align with mine or not. We're just going to do this. Okay. So I think this is kind of my grouping of things here that I would really focus on. Number one, you have to stop spending money. Stop wasting money on crap, and everything other than basic food and shelter is crap. I'm sorry. Your Facebook account is crap. Your Netflix is crap. The clothes that you buy are crap. It's all crap. I'm sorry. You want the luxuries. If you have a lifestyle like this and you want to take your lifestyle and start a business, you either want to start a business or you want to maintain your lifestyle. I think it's hard to try and do both, because if you have two cars, a $500,000 house, you have every subscription, your kids go to private school, and you have to make 15 grand a month or 10 grand a month for you to start an active business, I think you're robbing your business because you just can't do it. So that's going to be number one. I'll let Matt jump into this, and you can agree or disagree, data or drama, but I think you need to go down to bare necessities, rice and beans. That's step number one, because if you can't control what you spend, then the truth is you can't expect to keep any money during this whole piece. So Matt, what's your take on it?
100% agree with that. To me, frugality is a muscle. So if you've never flexed that muscle before, now it's the time to get comfortable with it. And I think, again, it doesn't mean that you always have to live frugally. I think myself and Ben, we've both lived very frugally in the past. We have that muscle there. If we needed to drop down to a bare existence lifestyle, I think we can do that with ease, because for us, it's just a mental switch. There's really nothing else beyond just like, okay, I'm now in this reality of bare bones, just necessity spending.
That's beautifully said. I'm giving you a how about that for that, because it is an exact muscle. When I started, so here's the thing, folks. I'm no better than you, and you're no better than me. I lived very frugally for the first 4 or 5 years of my marriage, because we just saved every penny that came in the door until we didn't have to. But we decided to spend to basically save whatever we could. We didn't even have anywhere to park it. We just saved it for the sake of saving it, to develop a discipline around money. Because if you can't manage $500, you're not going to manage $5,000 or $50,000. So I think until we get real with that, any amount of money you make is going back out the door. You're going to find a way to spend it. Humans are great at one thing, spending money. And wasting time is the other thing. We're great at it. We all have PhDs in this stuff. So that's my first step right now. So if you're like, I don't know, here's what you can do very tactfully. You can get a sheet of paper and you can go grab your bank statement for those of you that use your bank account. Here's what I want you to do. If you want to go very bare bones, number one, stop using cash. If you have a checking account, some people don't actually have a checkings account. So if you have no checkings account, you're brand new, all you have is cash, then you need a bunch of jars. You need a sheet of paper, and you need to write down exactly how much you're making, where your bare necessities are. You need to put those things in different jars, and then whatever's left over needs to get into a different jar that you hide and you don't touch. If you have a checking account, you need accountability, so stop spending cash. Use your debit and your credit card. And then here's what happens. When you do that, I want you to use your debit, not your credit. Use your debit card, and I want you to write down every day a line item of what you spent money on. Until you know where your money is going, and it might take you 30 days to do this or 60 days to do this, until you know where your money is going, you might not even know what you can cut out. Right, Matt? Like people can make assumptions. Oh, I make $5,000 a month. Yeah, but you only keep $500. But I think you have to become aware.
If you think you sort of know your spending, understand that once you sit down and actually track it, you're going to find you spend so much more than you think.
Yeah.
This is something that I used to be in the habit of tracking every penny every month for a couple of years. And way back on my YouTube channel, I actually went back and showed you guys my 2010 spending. I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what I spent. And it was bare minimum. To me, I was still living a great lifestyle. So there's not really to me, there wasn't much sacrifice involved. It was just a active choice to be made. Mm-hmm. But what I would start doing after that, once I got out of the phase of tracking every penny, is once a year for a month, I would do a spot audit. And I would just do 1 month of hardcore tracking. And I would always guess what I thought I was spending going into that month. And I'd always be 20, 30, 40% below what I expected, just because there is seepage, right? We spend money in all kinds of little ways that we don't realize. A lot of us are familiar with things like the latte factor, and we may nod when we hear it, but we're like,
oh yeah, the latte. Oh yeah, I know about that. I heard about that. I know how to do that.
Yeah. And then the moment you actually sit down, track your expenses, and you're like, oh wow, I'm spending $100 a week on random takeout food. Oh wow, that adds up to hundreds of dollars a month. And yeah, it can really have a massive impact on your personal finances. So you really do need to track your expenses. There's a reason that every single successful business has an accounting department, right? There's a reason that they all have finance departments, is because if you don't know where you're spending your money, to me, show me where someone spends their money and time, and I know their priorities.
Right.
And way too often, we don't know where we're spending our money or our time. So we literally don't even know where our personal priorities are.
Right. I love that. So start saving money. There's some great questions coming in, by the way, guys. Keep throwing them in. We're going to touch on these things. You have to write it down for 30 days if you want to have an understanding of where you spend your money, okay? For me, step 2 is once you've done that, you need a budget. You have to put together a budget. Now, I will tell you, my wife, every penny for the first 5 years of our marriage, we budgeted. Every penny. She would call me, where is that $6 from a week ago? And it would drive me crazy because I couldn't remember. But she would tell me, you spent cash, where's the cash? You see, when you're willing to go that, this is the way I see things, folks. If you want money, at the beginning, you have to spend time. Think of it like a job. It is your job to manage the money that you have if one day you want to manage the money that you don't have. Think about that kind of personal responsibility before you can have corporate responsibility. If you want to have a lot of money, you got to manage a little money. So get on a budget. Don't overcomplicate this. Don't use a whole bunch of fancy things and expel. You don't have enough income or expenses to need a computer, I promise you. And if you do, then you've got way too many expenses, because you definitely don't have enough income sources at the beginning to need a computer. You've got probably one, your job, maybe a couple rentals or whatever else. So a sheet of paper is what you need. Budget, boom, and track yourself for 30 days. And then you'll start identifying. See, I don't need to tell you where to stop spending money. You're going to start feeling guilty, and then you're going to stop. Somebody asked the question here, how do I know what's a luxury? Somebody says that a coffee machine at the office is a necessity where it might not be a necessity. Here's the truth, folks. The more you're willing to cut out, the faster you'll get there. It's that simple. So you have to decide is the Nespresso machine at the office where it's 80 cents for a K-cup worth you going slower? Then go slower. Is it probably going to make a huge difference at the end of the day? No. The exercise is not to save money. The exercise is to understand how to manage money, because until you can manage the money that you have, well, I'm telling you, you're not going to be able to manage what you don't have. So once you've done that, you've gone onto your budget, you've created a budget, okay? Now we got A and B. All of the extra money needs to go somewhere that you can't touch. Make it a savings account. Make it somewhere where once a month you've got some automatic, I'm sure they have tools at the bank where there's an automatic transfer that happens. You can do probably a PTS, pre-authorized transfer service agreement with TD Bank or most other banks, where you can tell the TD, once a month, I want you to take X from here. I have 500 left over. I want you to take X from here and put it into this savings. You do not carry a debit card for your savings. You do not have a credit card attached to that. It goes into your savings. Now, why am I telling you to do all this stuff? It seems like a lot of work, a lot of headache, a lot of whatever. Because until you can do that bare necessity work, guys, I can almost guarantee you'll never be wealthy. I don't know. You might disagree. You might disagree at home, folks. Matt might disagree with me. But my belief system is you will never be wealthy because you don't understand money and you don't understand discipline around money. And that's why I think you won't be wealthy. Want to add to this, dude?
Yeah, I just want to build upon it because I completely agree with it. Way too often people think that their problem is a lack of money, but it's a lack of education and sophistication around the use of money as a tool. So you could hand someone that has a spending problem $1 million and they're going to find a way to spend through it. You could hand, in my opinion, myself or Ben or Mike Rosehart nothing, and in a year they'd find their way to build something out of that. And that to me is so much more mindset. And that's like one of the next steps that I assume Ben was going to talk about was like really investing in yourself, your mindset, right?
Correct.
Because this to me is like your ultimate asset. It's the one thing they don't take away during bankruptcy, right? They can't, they can't put a lien against your knowledge. It really is one of the few things that is a truly portable asset that will last a lifetime for us. And I think that the problem is like the education system, your friends, family, society, they all have good intentions, but no one actually sits down and teaches us anything of substance for the first 20 years of our life.
Yeah.
Which is insane when you think about it.
Yeah.
But money is such it's the means of exchange that we use for almost everything, right?
Yeah.
And until you so many people, money has the power over them in that relationship rather than them having power over money. And because money is a tool that they don't know how to wield, it's just constantly this deadly weapon that they're literally just waving around their heads, and they're just lucky they're not taking their own head off with it.
Yep.
And a lot of people do make mistakes, right? And that's why we see such high amounts of consumer debt in countries like Canada. It's why we see so many people struggling when they technically make enough money, but they can't meet ends meet at the same time.
Yeah, let me throw something out there because I'm seeing some. By the way, guys, thanks for the questions in the comments. It's awesome. Some of you guys are super positive. A couple people are confused. That's okay. Let me throw something out there for anybody who's struggling with money. Understanding and budgeting your money is your prerequisite to having it. If we blame other people for not having enough money, then we don't understand the realities of life. Show me a person who's struggling with money and then show me their budget. Show me where they've budgeted every dollar coming into their household. And then from there, let me see if they're struggling with money. I can guarantee you, I don't care how much you make or how little you make. The cost of rent going up or the cost of food going up or all these other things are secondary to people not budgeting their money. It's secondary. I know it sounds horrible. How dare you? I get it. I understand. Some people live in paycheck to paycheck or they're struggling. I understand that, friends. But I would tell you this. The people who are living paycheck to paycheck and struggling are still not budgeting. At least if you start budgeting, you can start understanding the paycheck that you got. And I'm not saying you're going to be rich overnight, but instead of paycheck to paycheck, it might be paycheck to every other paycheck. You might actually start getting ahead a little bit, but we got to get ahead a little bit. It's an increment. I don't care if you put aside a nickel a month, but we need to start putting aside something so that we understand the game, right? The other issue, so once you've got that done, you're right, Matt. My next piece is this, is that what we do is we have to get around other people and get in the right influence. If people around you are spending money all the time on different things, then the truth is we're not going to be influenced in a positive way. All right. We need to get around people that are saving, people that are growing, people that are investing in themselves, people that are investing in their business, people that are investing. So we have to get around folks that are doing it, whether it's a community like CashFlow Tribe, whether it's any other community or people, but we have to change the environment if you want to change the life circumstance. What do you think about that, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to be able to change your circumstances, you need to change your environment. I'm a huge believer you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, but I think way too often people think that literally just means the people you spend time with. It's everything, right? It's the environment, the mindset, it's the type of content you're consuming, right? You could surround yourself with 5 of the most absolute killer entrepreneurs, but if every day, all you're doing is watching talk shows or the Maury Show or some sort of other dramatic TV show, right? that's still going to seep in, and that becomes your environment, that becomes your ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it really is critical that you get around the right people, that you find people that resonate with not only who you are, but who you're trying to become.
Yeah.
Way too often we're surrounded with people who like us for who we were. And it's really difficult to break out of your current patterns and your current habits and your current beliefs if everyone around you only believes the reality you're coming from rather than the reality you're moving towards.
Correct. And again, I'm not trying to make these broad statements where people are like, that's not my intention here, folks. My intention isn't to insult anybody or to offend anybody, but I got to be very realistic. I understand that what I say might not be interpreted what I say. Other people might understand it differently, just like I might screw this up, guys, and understand something differently. But I would say this, folks, we have a choice, whether you believe this or not. My belief is this. We have a choice to either accept the victim mentality or not. I come from oppression. I come from a country where it's communism. So, folks, I mean, as bad as everybody has it, I'm incredibly blessed, but I understand that people have it worse. If we are in Canada and we have food and shelter, other people have it worse. I'm sorry, you may disagree with me, but other people truly have it worse than that. So what I'm saying is I don't want to be a victim of the circumstance. Whatever the adversity is that I grew up in or other people growing up in, you can either use that adversity to, use it as a weapon to grow and accelerate, or you're going to let it affect your whole life and develop a victim mentality around that adversity. And you can do whatever you wish. That's why it's a free country. We all have choice to do that, but I just won't accept it, right? I'm not going to accept that adversity and be held down because of it. So let's kind of keep moving on this piece here because there's a lot of stuff here. Okay, that's number one. Get around other people that are doing. The reason why you want to save money is that you got to go back to school. You have to invest in yourself. Whatever the grade school and high school education system didn't teach you about money, you have to learn somehow about money. So books are a great start, okay? So books would be, Rich Dad, Poor Dad or some good books. Or The Slight Edge is a great book on personal development and money. Basic books, even Dave Ramsey's got a course, right? The Extreme Money Makeover. Right, there's a course you can take from Dave Ramsey. You could take, there's all kinds of stuff on budgeting your money and learning about general investing practices because there is a core underlying fundamental knowledge that we need to have as investors. Instead of just buying the stocks or buying certain things that don't, that we don't understand, we have to get a basic level. I don't think, Matt, anybody can get rich quick in real estate investing or any other way. I think we have to invest for the long-term mindset, even if you get out of a deal short-term like a real estate flip. So talk about the education component, Matt, in your opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, real estate investing is simple, but not easy. There is hard work involved. I think one of the big struggles, I thought that if you just educated people enough that they would just take it upon themselves and change the reality they lived in. That was really the goal of my YouTube channel, right? We've created over 650 YouTube videos now at this point on my channel. And we're going to, hopefully by the end of this weekend, we'll hit 60,000 subscribers. And that to me is an amazing milestone. It's a ton of fun. But at the same time, I can't help but look back upon the 650 videos we made and the 60,000 subscribers we've garnered. And I don't think I've created 60,000 new real estate investors.
Correct.
Right? I think there's a lot of people that are just consuming the information I'm putting out there, and they're consuming it as entertainment rather than education, as we were talking about earlier. And I think there's a handful of reasons why that happens. I think one is because they're not around the right people. So no one around them believes it's possible. So even if you watch someone on the internet talk about how it is possible, if no one else in your reality believes it, it's going to be really tough for you to break out of that. And then secondly, I think a lot of us have just been trained and conditioned to be consumers, and we're all waiting for permission, right? We're waiting for someone to be like, yep, you now have enough education, go start investing, or go start self-improving. And that day rarely comes for any of us. So it really is upon us to have that internal locus of control, right?
Yeah.
If you view life as something that happens to you, you're right. And that's going to be exactly how your entire life story plays out, is a series of events that happen to you.
Yeah.
If you view yourself as something that happens to life, that's the way your life is going to play out. It's going to be a series of events you decided to make happen. And that to me is a huge difference in perspectives. And it's something that I don't know when, like, I certainly didn't always have that perspective. It was something that just gradually over time happened. And I suppose there was a tipping point where there was no turning back then based upon my perspective. But I do understand a lot of people, they haven't necessarily woken up to that reality or spent enough time in it to become acclimated. And so it can be really easy to fall into those old narratives of victim mentality and just like, I can't break out of this. But we need to be really careful even about how we phrase things, because saying I can't break out of that, like you're reinforcing that belief. This is something I maybe can do. You're reinforcing that belief. Maybe it is something you can do.
Something powerful about, the words, how can I? Not that I can't, but how can I this? Now I'm going to do something. I'm going to give my man a shout out here, or woman a shout out, KH. I see you're in the comments here. You may or may not agree with what we're saying over here. Folks, we don't intend to like upset or insult people. What I'm trying to bring is some hope that if you're in Canada, like this country is the one where we can do whatever we want in this life. And regardless of where we're at today, friends, wherever the situation is today, we can improve and get better. But we've got to make a conscious decision that we want to get better. And if we can do that, folks, like I'd love to help people up. But here's where I got to become a realist. It's not about giving anybody a fish or a handout. Nobody wants a handout. Nobody's trying to give a handout. Can we give a hand up? Because somebody gave me a hand up at some point and helped me grow. And I'd like to help the next person. The hard part is this, friends, because I have been there. There's sometimes a deep conviction in what we're doing may not be working. So maybe we need to change some of the things that we're doing. And it's hard. It's like, well, what do you mean change? Because, Ben, I don't have any money. How do I save any money if I don't have any? How do I put it aside? How do I invest in myself if I don't? How do I do this? Here's what we can do. I'll give you a very practical thing. Just start with the book, Think and Grow Rich. If we can just grab one book, if we can just grab one like Audible or podcast, there's free podcast, on YouTube or Spotify. Think and Grow Rich, or anything that's personal development mindset, will help us understand money because it'll help us understand ourselves. You see, I think money is just another form of psychology. And if we can understand that money truly is a vehicle, and if we can start shaping our belief systems around money, then what happens is we can have control over it versus it having control over us. Because when I started off, this was a hard topic for me. Truly a hard topic, right? Because I'm like, man, I want money, but I don't know how to get it. So I'm trying to do all these things. When I was young, man, I used to like make little paper origami and sell it for 5 cents to my brothers and sisters. And I started a restaurant when I was like 11 years old, and all I made was like toast with ketchup. And I would sell it for like a dime and stuff like that. So, it's crazy. But at some point, you're just trying to do anything to get ahead. So I get the struggle. I understand the struggle. My friends, everybody struggles at some point. So here's the distinction I want to make. We have different seasons of our lives. Seasons. Nobody's better than you. You're not better than anybody else. But people go through different seasons. It's hard to look at somebody sometimes who, like, I've been in this for 12 years, man. 12 years, right? So it's hard to like look at somebody who's been in it for 12 years and say, I want to be him tomorrow. But my friend, I've been in it for 12 years. So I don't want to give you a false sense of reality like you're going to jump into real estate tomorrow and you're going to make $1 million. You're not. You're not, because I didn't. I don't have that secret. If I did, I would have done it. I can only speak to the things that I've done. And all I've done is focus on being 1% better every day. 1% better. And if you start with 1% better on your mindset, in 100 days, you could be twice as productive in your thinking, which means you can start doing things. Use this right now, 2020, as an experiment, my friends, because if you could go back in time and experiment and hang out with me in 2008, 9, and 10, when I was buying house after house, and you could see somebody doing that, it would give you so much perspective, right? So even if you don't buy real estate today because you have a job and you're tied down, get around a community like Tribe and just watch. Get around the right people and just observe of how the market moves. You know what I mean? Matt, what do you think about that? Just being a fly on the wall right now. Is that anything wrong with that?
Yeah, I think that that's a great way to be exposed, right, to new realities, new perspectives, new thought patterns. So again, it's the Roger Bannister effect, right? Once you start seeing someone actually doing, once you see someone that's an active practitioner, all of a sudden it just starts breaking down those barriers. I went through that when I was 25 back in 2010. Yeah. I was starting to just start looking into early or late 2009, early 2010, just starting to look at buying my first rental property and buying a student rental at the same time. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was so scary. And then I happened to just stumble upon a coworker that was actually already a successful student rental property operator. And the moment I met him, it just all of a sudden, like, my entire perspective shifted. It went from like, my friends think I'm crazy, my parents think I'm crazy, like, you know, maybe I am crazy. What if I'm just going to like spend a bunch of money, lose a bunch of money and waste a bunch of time? And all of a sudden it came to like, oh, like someone that I know, like, and respect is doing this exactly what I want to do. And he's telling me not only is he glad he did it, but he wish he would have started it sooner. All of a sudden, like, that just clicked for me, and I could really see a path to how I made this work for Matt.
Yeah.
And before that, it was an abstract idea.
Yeah.
It was an abstract idea that sounded good, but like, I don't know, like a lot of us, diets sound like a good abstract idea. But I think until like one of your friends or someone you spend a lot of time with starts really taking that seriously or exercising, it's very difficult for you to naturally internalize that as an important personal value as well.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was seeing that Ryan was a successful student rental investor that, like, I was like, oh, I can do it too.
Yeah. Can I add a piece to that? If it's going to take you 10 years to master something, they say it takes 10,000 hours to master a topic, right? And if you want to master money, I would say it's going to take you 10 years to do this, right? A couple things. Number one, if you start today and 10 years from now, you're mastered, right? And 10 years from now. The other thing too is every 10 to 12 years or 8 to 12, we have a market cycle or correction. So here's what happens. Imagine for a moment, just believe with me here, that you have to go through a correction and you have to master the market. Imagine if you had to. Then would it matter if you started today or next year or the following year or the year after? It's simply a matter of the effort that you put in. If you start today, I would tell you, you're in a beautiful market opportunity to really jump in. You starting today is the equivalent of me starting in 2009. If you're like, oh, the market's over, it's too hot, it's too whatever, folks, the market's correct, the market's change, the market's adapt. The strategies will develop, which is the word I like to use. You might not use a BRRRR strategy. You might use a BRRRR combo wholesale strategy. You might use a whole bunch of other things, but they develop and they change and they adjust. So you have to start. So the question is this: if you know it's going to be 10 years and you know that there's going to be a cycle that happens in that 10 years, why not start today? What benefit is there to waiting until next year or the year afterwards? Now, you can disagree with my logic, but I'm telling you, for me, that is the case. Because right now I'm seeing the same circumstance, the same fear, the same kind of pieces in the market. And it doesn't matter how old you are, folks. I would just do it. Do it now. Last year, the year before, next year, whenever you decide, do it. Because it's probably going to take you a couple years anyways. Now, here's the difference with a mentor. I think if you have a mentor and somebody who's actively doing deals like a practitioner, I didn't have somebody. I didn't have like an active practitioner doing deals that I could stand beside and grow together. I just had to kind of figure it out. Made a lot of mistakes, and you're going to make mistakes as well, by the way. You're going to fail at some stuff. It's part of learning, right? So instead of calling it failure, just call it experimenting. I'm going to experiment a few times before I get it right. But that would be my biggest piece of advice, folks, is that if you have to master it, which I think you do, start now. In 10 years from now, you've mastered, right? Now, the market might give you a huge swing or a small swing. You might come out $5 million ahead or $500,000 ahead. But the truth is, if you start today, you'll come out ahead. But only if you invest in yourself and only if you truly go back to school and learn the things that the great school education system didn't teach you. Because, folks, I had to. I'm not the smartest guy out there. I failed math 2 times in school. I say this a lot because it's important. People just assume, oh, it must be nice. Dude, everything I have, I had to like develop and learn after school. My education started after high school because I was in applied everything in high school. I didn't have any academic courses. So what do you think, Matt?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just throwing a lot of shit at you right now.
No, I completely agree, though, with that complete sentiment. Like, it's one of those things, I don't know, it's such a simple concept for me today, and yet I never implemented in my life the first, like, 25, 30 years. Understanding that, like, if you're going to do something eventually, why not start doing it today?
Yeah.
I think way too often I built things up into, like, oh, like once someone tells me the perfect corporate structure, once someone tells me the exact way to write a purchase and sale agreement, then I'll start educating myself and investing the time and energy necessary. But until they show me exactly how to do this one red herring, I'm not going to invest in myself. Yeah. And I wish that there was like a silver bullet that I could just use on everyone to get them to understand that perspective. Mm-hmm. Because
there's a series of bullets. I'm going to throw out a quick book recommendation, Blue Fishing. I just got introduced to this guy the other day. Oh, yeah. So I started reading Blue Fishing. If you read the book Blue Fishing, here's what he's going to tell you. He's going to tell you that you have to fail to succeed. You have to develop a bluefish-like attitude, and you have to experiment and experience the journey. So any silver bullet, guys, that you want doesn't mean anything to you, because by the time you go to use the strategy I'm going to tell you about next year, it's no longer going to be the relevant strategy of the market cycle. So if today you're starting, then today we can talk about real estate. But if you're going to study for 3 years and the market shifts, everybody who started learning about BRRRR strategy 3 years ago, and now all of a sudden like, I'm finally getting into real estate. Hey, guess what? You got to start your education all over again, because we're taking too long. In the amount of time that you take to learn, other people are just jumping in, making mistakes, and figuring it out. I know it sounds complicated. Nobody wants to do it. But if you jump in, make mistakes, you will figure out what doesn't work. You're Edison, and real estate is the light bulb. And for me to give you a silver lining or a silver bullet is like you trying to prevent having to go through all the mistakes that Edison went through. You're going to go through them. The only difference is if you had Edison as a teacher, could you do it faster? And I think that's where a mentor comes in place. What do you think? Anything you want to add as we wrap up today's conversation, Matt?
I just think it's been a great conversation.
Yeah,
I think
man.
that there was a lot of knowledge bombs dropped today. And I hope for everyone that's in my YouTube comment section and just kind of watching this live now that you guys really use COVID-19 as a time to reflect, right? A lot of people are using this to fill their minds with a lot of fear and panic and just unproductive thoughts and patterns. And at the same time, there's other people out there, people like us, that are constantly focused on improving ourselves, right? Like myself and my team, we started 5-day-a-week workouts. It would have been just as easier to not do that stuff during quarantine than it is to organize the Zoom call. But you know, if it was something that we eventually wanted to do, why not start doing it today? I think the same thing about real estate, investing, personal self-development, dieting, health, whatever. If it's something you want to do, if it's something that you see a version of yourself at some point doing, why not just start investing the time and energy today?
Yeah, and I'm not saying, folks, to risk all the money and risk everything that you've learned. What I'm saying is get educated today. Get a mentor today. Listen, if you're brand new, all you need to do, I'll give you here's the plug right here, CashFlowTribe.ca. That's it. CashFlowTribe.ca, absolutely free trial. Just throw it on the screen here, Hans. You can jump in there and for 2 weeks learn as much as you possibly want, and then it's like $60 a month to be a member. Listen, that's what it's going to cost you, $60 a month to learn as much as you can possibly learn about real estate, get around other people and gain some confidence, get around practitioners doing real life deals. I'm not advising you to take $100,000 from your RSP and throw it into something that you don't understand. I would never tell you to do that. What I'm telling you is just start getting educated. Swap out the Netflix and the Cogeco subscription with another subscription that's going to actually give you information that's useful, and you can start really shaping your mindset about how to use this time as a period of growth. I'll wrap up with this. You can look back on this moment 10 years from now and say 2020 was the most pivotal investment year of my life, or it wasn't. For me, 2009 was the most pivotal investment year of my life. 2009 made me a millionaire. Do you think that people back then didn't do exactly what they did today? So many naysayers, so many negative people, so many skeptical people, so many people, screaming that the earth is falling apart, so many people saying that it's going to be the end of everything, the stock market's dying, the housing market's dying. And you know what happened, folks? It didn't. It rebounded. And I guarantee you, folks, whatever you think is happening right now in the world, it will rebound. And next year will be another thing. And the following year will be another thing. The only fault I think humans truly have is we have a terrible memory. And we forget how much you feared the last thing. The SARS, the Y2Ks, the stock market bubble, the housing market. We forget that we were scared then too. And as a country and as a humanity, we worked through it. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for working through the challenges because we allow the fear to consume everything that we're trying to create. So, folks, thank you so much for being here. Matt, fantastic McKeever Monday, man. I think this is a great segment, folks. Go back and watch this. Yeah. Do me a favor, folks. If you have some questions, keep throwing in the comments. We'll be answering them later after the show as well. But share the stream. Do us a favor. Click that subscribe button if you're over on Matt McKeever's YouTube page. Give my man some love over there. And go ahead and subscribe daily for the Data and the Drama Show Monday through Friday. Appreciate you guys. And go ahead and check over to CashFlowTribe.ca if you're brand new to investing and get around we got got a whole bunch of CashFlow Tribe members in the audience, which is amazing. Thank you guys for being here. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you. Quick shout out Susan and Chris and Nancy and KH and Fabio and like all kinds of people in the comments. You guys are awesome. You guys roll. So as we roll out of here, I'm going to do my McKeever Mondays wrap from Mr. Matt McKeever. We're going to hit it. Guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Be blessed and stay safe out there. Let's do it, Hans. Here we go.
Hey, what's all the hubbub?
Yo.
What?
Here we go. Working at your job every day of the week. Promoted 2 times, but now your future looks bleak. You're saving every dollar, making plans for retiring, but now you're losing hope and no one is hiring. McKeever and Ben Humble is coming to the rescue. Diversify your income and stop spending like the rest do. Time to build some skills and get some solid mentorship. Fighting in these waters like U.S. naval battleship. McKeever making money. Are you making money? Build a business now or y'all be looking funny. McKeever making money. Are you making money? Build a business now or y'all be looking funny. Mine is a pandemic, got the virus, it's a scarcity, so switch it to abundance, it's your choice, so just believe with me, don't have to be scared, poverty is not your destiny, just have a little faith and stay with me, yeah, it's Humblebee, teaching from experience, educating more than sesame, and yeah, I'm from the streets, so I'm thinking independently, I'm not that big bird, I'm not yellow, you can count on me, but I'm dropping big words with syllables, like 1, 2, 3, McKeever making money, you making money?
Yeah!
Build a business now, or y'all be looking funny. McKeever making money. Are you making money? Build a business now, or y'all be looking. Here we go. It's time to make some money. Government just can't fix it though. It's time to take control and money pedal to the floor. It's time to make some money. Government just can't fix it though. It's time to take control and money pedal to the floor. Hey, McKeever making money. Are you making money? CashFlow Tribe, build a business now. Don't look funny. McKeever making money. Are you making money? Thank you for coming to the show. Y'all are great. Take care, folks. Peace.